Alright, and welcome to another episode of the In the Hot Seat podcast. And this is the second half for the doubleheader with Overdrive for that, and as well for AEW for Full Gear. If you're watching on the YouTube version, the audio versions will be separate if you're listening on Anchor and Spotify, and checking things out on the In the Hot Seat podcast website. So we'll get right into it with AEW Full Gear. There's a lot to actually get through with their final show of the year. Well, one of them anyway. Of course, the next one being for Death Before Dishonor for ROH. But anyway, getting right into the pre-show. There's a lot to get through in the 0 hour in itself alone. Where we had Best Friends in the Factory on this one. And we're able to deal with Danhausen with the Best Friends being fashionably late. We all know that he's very nice and very evil. Well, this time we were able to see more of the evil side of him being fashionably late, eventually dealing with the match and actually helping things out for the Best Friends so they get the win. So I feel like he'll be actually dealing with this side of himself, mainly towards matches. When it comes to like interviews and stuff like that, I'm sure he'll deal out with a different side of him. So it was really cool to see basically the very evil side of Danhausen. And then we get into the Eliminator Tournament, a semi-final match to see who will move on between Ricky Starks and Brian Cage, where you thought it would be more towards Brian Cage. Ricky Starks basically having more of the advantage, being able to deal with Lance Archer, being able to stop him, so that gave him more basically on a positive note and be able to feel confident, so have the confidence dealing with Brian Cage and actually beating him and looking to face Ethan Page, which would definitely be really interesting to see on that. So I really like how that happened. And Eddie Kingston dealing with Jun Akiyama on this from New Japan Pro Wrestling. Hopefully I didn't really mess up the name on that. I'm still getting familiar with names. But I was actually a fan of Jun in this one for sure. And Eddie Kingston, however, was able to get his win and have the respect there. So that's always cool to see. So that was it on the 0 hour. We get into the main card where we had the Steel Cage opening things up in the Badass opener, dealing with Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. And seeing these two go at it really does suck, since I am a big fan of both of them as when they were in a tag team for Jurassic Express. But Christian Cage getting involved and basically splitting them up, basically. Christian dealing with Luchasaurus and being with him, so Jungle Boy really having wanting to deal with revenge. He got that, and seeing that awesome spot from the top of the steel cage, which is awesome to have the finish, and Jungle Boy actually get his win, makes sense. So I'm sure once a Christian is healed up, he'll deal with Jungle Boy in the proper match and being able to have his chance to actually deal with Christian at some point once again. So that's it with that. And everything else in not in any particular order, where we had the TBS Championship match at Jade Cargill and as well Nyla Rose. Nyla Rose claiming that she is the TBS champion, basically stealing it and everything, which is really hilarious how she was able to take the championship and actually claim it hers. He was actually able to come out with the lowrider with Vicky Guerrero. That was really cool on that, and see that happen as well. And basically, they were able to steal each other's finishers and everything, making it a little bit harder for themselves to see who would be able to get the win. But Jade Cargill able to come back and able to gain back her championship that she basically never really lost, but was stolen by Nyla Rose on that. So really interesting to see who will face Jade next, who will be able to stop her on that. Maybe we'll have the Forbidden Door open in this match for next time for the TBS Championship, to see someone else be able to face Jade, so that would be interesting there. We get into the TNT Championship, the triple threat match between Waldo, Samoa Joe, and Powerhouse Hobbs on this one, and being able to see the frustrations between all of them. But we actually had surprisingly Samoa Joe get the win and be champ. So he's also ROH Television Champion and TNT Champion. It looks like Waldo and Powerhouse Hobbs will probably want to face each other in a singles match to be able to face Samoa Joe. I can see that happening at some point as well. Then we had the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight title, the Fatal 4 match at Claudio, Bryan, and as well as Sammy and Chris Jericho all in this one. It really made it tough to see who I really wanted to win. Points I was going more for Bryan Danielson on this one, but I also wanted my Claudio getting the championship as well. Sammy came close, but Chris Jericho found a way to be able to get his win, and we saw the tension between Chris and Sammy there, as well to see who wanted the world title the most. So we'll see if their friendship is still basically there and okay on that between them. So we'll see what happens with that. But Chris Jericho is still the world champion for Ring of Honor. Then we get into the tag team title match between The Acclaim and Swerve and Our Glory. It was definitely interesting because later on at some point we did get to see Swerve wanting to have Keith Lee basically cheat in a way. Keith Lee didn't want it, and he was able to stop Swerve there. So basically, the tag team being no more, and The Acclaim coming back, and as well retaining their tag team titles. So I can basically see Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland be able to deal with the feud most likely. So we'll see what happens with that. And then we got the returning Saraya dealing with Dr. Britt Baker on this one, and actually Britt Baker going at it alone, which was really good to see that. Being able to work on the neck too, which was basically in the way cringe, and making sure things didn't happen any worse for Saraya. Saraya having her brother there for support, so definitely got emotional for me on that, and happy to say that Saraya getting her win and being able to move on from Baker and that. So I'm curious to see what other feuds we'll be seeing out of her, and being able to see what comes next, and hopefully later on down the road see her in the AEW Women's World Title picture, which would be really awesome to see. And then we got into the trios tag team title match, the Elite, the returning Elite, which is really awesome, dealing with Death Triangle, really awesome stuff, and being able to see all the crazy spots on this one. And it turned out that this would be, I believe, a best of 7 series, so the Elite didn't get their win this time, but Death Triangle able to retain. So curious to see and very excited to see the rest of the tag team, awesome tag team matches that they are looking to have as well. And then we had Sting and Darby Allin dealing with Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal on this one, and it was really insane to see Sting being able to be at his age and deal with a dive and everything. So that was really cool. We've seen him brawl into the fans and everything. So it really got in the way personal. Jeff Jarrett dealing with that guitar spot in mid-air for Darby Allin, which is sick to be able to see that. But Sting and Darby Allin, I believe, getting a win, and which was well done when it comes to that. Then we get into the women's world title match, dealing with Toni Storm and as well Jamie Hayter. I felt like it should have been just still 1-1, but after a while, of course, Rebel came out and dealing with Toni Storm, and as well, of course, Britt Baker had to get involved and deal with Toni as well. So with all that, Jamie Hayter actually getting the women's world title, which is very well deserved with the roles that she's been on. So not mad at that. I can see this feud continuing, definitely for sure. On that, and as well, whenever Thunder Rosa comes back, I can see her and Toni Storm continuing their tag team and dealing with Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter. So there's that too to get involved. So there's a lot at stake with that. And then the main event, Jon Moxley and as well MJF on this one, and being able to have MJF come back and being basically the devil dealing with the poker chip, being able to have that be cashed in for Full Gear and everything. At one point we did get to see William Regal get involved, basically try to stop MJF, and he was going to use the ring to his advantage, but then we did get to see the Brass Knocks be brought in, William Regal helping out MJF, and MJF being world champion, so we are living in his world and we know it. So MJF being world champion, so I'm sure Jon Moxley will want his rematch. We'll see other people want to face MJF, I'm sure of that. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen now for the Blackpool Combat Club. Is that going to be in jeopardy, or they're just going to take out William Regal and have William Regal deal with MJF from now on. So a lot of questions basically there when it comes to everything else. So Full Gear, definitely one of my favorite pay-per-views of the year for sure. What are your thoughts? Definitely leave it in the comment section for the YouTube version or as well on my other social media to continue the discussion as well. So that was it for Overdrive for Impact Wrestling AEW for Full Gear. We still got Survivor Series next week. I don't know when the podcast episode will be, so that might be a little late on that since I'll be away. So with that being said, for the YouTube version, leave a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay notified, and as well continue the support for the In the Hot Seat podcast. So hopefully you enjoyed your weekend and until the rest of your week and holiday for Thanksgiving. So there'll be plenty more of the In the Hot Seat podcast to come. Until then, I'll catch you guys next time. Hi, and welcome to the In the Hot Seat podcast, where you get the best of pro wrestling, pop culture, reviews, and interviews, and so much more. We are on Anchor and Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, and check out the socials as well. Until then, welcome everyone to the In the Hot Seat podcast with your host, Daphne Rivera. Alright, what's going on, guys, and welcome to another episode of the In the Hot Seat podcast. And in this week's episode, I will be talking about Impact Wrestling for Overdrive and being able to give out thanks once again for more episodes of the In the Hot Seat podcast. This time with Overdrive, also dealing with Full Gear this month, and as well for Survivor Series board games. And before I get into the actual review, I wanted to mention that I did get to open the In the Hot Seat podcast website, so be sure to check out the actual audio and as well video versions of the In the Hot Seat podcast, and as well other future podcasts that I actually do support will be on there eventually at some point. If you want to be able to be a guest on the In the Hot Seat podcast, be sure to actually check out the website too, as well for bookings and all that good stuff and a lot more to be able to come. So a really long time coming to actually have the website, so I'm really happy about that. So definitely check that out on the link tree that I do have for the link for that, and as well for all of my other social media as well. But getting into Overdrive, there is two pre-show matches in this one. The first one dealing with the X Division Showcase, where we dealt with Mike Bailey, which one was also in this one, Kenny King, Jason Hodge, Yuya in this one, and as well Bhupinder also all in this match. And in a way, I was feeling Mike Bailey and Kenny King most likely more had a chance on this one, especially Bhupinder for sure. Basically anyone for the most part, but Mike Bailey and Kenny King the most. Even though I was also going for White Swan, a little bit of everybody basically. White Swan was able to actually get his chance to get a win there, so I really made it hard to actually get a pick for sure, but I'm happy White Swan was able to get his win there. Then we got the tag team match where we have Motor City Machine Guns dealing with the Bullet Club. On this one, and basically having Ace Austin and as well Chris Bay being able to deal with the Motor City Machine Guns and to see who would be basically the better team and most likely face the tag team champions at some point in the near future. And then happy the Motor City Machine Guns were able to get their win, even though Bullet Club basically has been on their own road as of late, so that was definitely very interesting to say the least, and a really good, enjoyable back and forth matchup for sure. Then we got the main card that started things off with the tables match and Moose and Bully Ray. Very rare to actually see two heels actually go at it in this one. Bully Ray getting his win, putting Moose through a table definitely makes sense. And Bully Ray, that was the last time that we did get to see him on Overdrive, so we'll get into that a little later on. And then getting into the Knockouts Tag Team title match, dealing with the Death Dolls, Taya Valkyrie and as well Jessica on this, with Rosemary, and as well taking on Tasha Steelz and Savannah Evans on this one. And with this, I wouldn't have been against Tasha Steelz and Savannah Evans actually getting the win. especially Tasha Steelz not dealing with the Knockouts title anymore, so now basically getting into the tag team title division again, and for the Knockouts tag team division, which is really interesting. And to be able to have the Dead Dolls actually get the win definitely is fair enough, and I'm happy about that. Then we get into, of course, Mickie James and Taylor Wilde, and the stress was definitely real for this, and being able to see who will be able to try and stop Mickie James and to have the rodeo still keep on going. And they kind of treated it as if like it was a title match, which is really crazy and adding more to the stress basically. But it was really awesome, to say the least, to actually see these two go at it. It was really a fun match. But Mickie James was able to actually win and keep things going. However, we did see Deonna Purrazzo wanting some more of Mickie James to be the one to actually take her out and end everything. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but if it does, then I can see basically her having to be the one. If not her, then probably Masha Slamovich, most likely for me. So it's either one of the two for sure. So they still have some unfinished business basically to deal with all of that. And then we get into for the tag team titles where we had Rhino and Heath dealing with the major players and basically in question to see where things going to be going, because with Matt Cardona basically hinting, looking to go back to the WWE and showing off him with the internet title and everything, so kind of hinting of maybe a comeback, and hopefully the rest of the Cardona family will be going with him. Definitely Chelsea Green for sure. So that should be interesting. And it probably was, I don't know exactly, but I at least felt that way, that it was basically the last match for the major players, or at least for Matt Cardona anyway, in my opinion. But Rhino and Heath were able to get their win, and as well to retain the tag team titles, and as well the Motor City Machine Guns actually wanted to face Heath and Rhino, so that should be interesting to see, depending on what next pay-per-view they'll be actually dealing with them for the tag team titles, most likely. And then we get into the finals for the X Division tournament to see who would be X Division champion. Of course, Black Tourist dealing with Trey Miguel in this one. Black Tourist had a really strong showing, but Trey Miguel was able to somehow stop Black Tourist, and as well having to gain back the X Division championship. So I could have went either or. Black Tourist definitely becoming one of my favorites to watch, and I definitely highly recommend checking out some Black Tourist matches and everything. So he's able to hold his own, even though he had Crazy Steve with him for full support for Decay and everything. So that was really cool there. Then we get into the last knockout standing match between Jordan Grace and dealing with Masha Slamovich and everything. And you know, it's really interesting to see who would be able to come out on top and everything, and being able to deal with the win and being able to have Jordan Grace stand tall on this one. And at the same time, it's kind of weird seeing Masha being able to take the loss after being dominant for so long and everything. I felt like she would be able to not only get the title, but eventually face Mickie for the title, and especially with her streak and everything with the last rodeo, and how things have been. It would have been interesting to see how that would have been able to turn out, and then that would have been probably would have been Mickey's last match with Masha for the title and everything. So basically, kind of like a career and title situation. I thought would have been cool, but Jordan Grace actually winning and retaining there and being able to still remain dominant too in their own right with that. So definitely we get into the world title match. Josh Alexander as well Kazarian to see if he can actually win the world title. It was really cool build up to the story and how things were able to be transpire on that. A really insane back and forth match and everything. I thought this would have been Kazarian's time. I would have loved to see him get the world title, but Josh Alexander comes back and keeps and retains his world title. But then we see Bully Ray, and I thought he was actually going to cash in his chance to actually be a world champion with the Call Your Shot trophy. He did, but he's actually going to wait until Hard to Kill, so he's scaring Josh Alexander until I believe in about January when Hard to Kill happened. So he did actually dealt with his wife and everything, and threatening Josh Alexander and the both of them, which is crazy to be able to see that, and just reminding uh, Josh Alexander that Bully Ray wants the world title. So still acting very bullyish, basically living up to on the name on everything. So that should be an interesting match for sure. And hopefully Josh Alexander still gets to remain champion, especially after Hard to Kill, but that remains to be seen. So that is Overdrive in a nutshell and everything else that did happen. So really enjoyable stuff there, dealing with that for AEW Full Gear Weekend. So that's with this first half of the In the Hot Seat podcast, and now we get into the second half with AEW Full Gear.